The storm had no mercy. Cold winds howled across the endless white land, sharper than knives, louder than thunder. Snow fell like broken glass from the sky, blinding everything. The world was frozen, a land of ice where no creature should live. And yet in the middle of this storm there was a small figure. A child. Not a human child, but an alien one. Its skin was pale blue, glowing faintly under the storm's lightning. Its large black eyes were full of fear, and its small body shook in the cold. The child tried to walk, but each step was heavy. The snow pulled it down, the storm pushed it back. Tears ran down its face, clear, shining drops that froze before they even touched the ground. The child was crying, but its sobs were swallowed by the storm. No one could hear it, no one, or so it thought. The child had been running for hours. It had lost its family when the storm came suddenly. A voice had shouted, "Run!" But the winds carried the sound away. Now it was alone in a world that wanted to freeze it to death. The child stumbled and fell. The snow swallowed it, and for a moment it did not rise. Its tiny hands pressed into the ice, its lips trembling. "Help!" the child whispered in a language no human could understand. The storm did not answer. The storm never answered. But something else did. Far away, in the white distance, there was a flash of fire. A sound like thunder, then metal screaming. Something had fallen from the sky. A ship. It cut through the clouds like a burning star and crashed into the frozen ground, sending waves of ice and snow into the air. The ground shook under the child's feet. For a moment it forgot its fear. It turned its head and saw light. Not the cruel light of lightning, but something warmer, something alive. The child stood weakly and began to move toward it. Step, step, step. Its body felt heavy, its tears now frozen crystals on its cheeks. But it moved anyway, because in that light there was hope. The snow grew thicker. The storm screamed louder. And then footsteps, not the footsteps of a predator, not the claws of the monsters that hunted in the cold, but heavy, slow, uneven steps. Crunch, crunch, crunch. A shadow appeared in the snow, tall, broad, strange. The child froze, its heart racing. It had never seen anything like this before. A creature wrapped in metal and cloth, its face hidden behind a glass shield. Steam rose from its suit as it breathed. The figure stumbled, holding one arm against its chest, blood dripping into the snow. A human. The explorer had crashed with his ship. His body hurt, his mind was dizzy, but he was alive. He forced his legs to move through the snow, searching for shelter, searching for anything that could keep him alive in this storm. And then he saw it. The child. Two pairs of eyes met through the storm. Black alien eyes full of tears, human eyes full of shock and pain. For a long moment, the storm was the only voice between them. Both were afraid. Both were broken. And yet both still breathed. The child stepped back, trembling. It did not know what this creature was. Friend, enemy, monster? The human raised a hand, slow, careful. His voice was weak but gentle. "It's okay," he whispered, though he knew the child could not understand. "I won't hurt you." The child tilted its head, confused. Its lips parted, but no words came out. Only frost. The human dropped to one knee, his strength failing. The storm pushed against him, but he reached out his hand again. His glove was thick, his hand shaking, but the gesture was clear. "Come." The child's heart pounded. It looked at the hand, at the storm, at its own frozen fingers. Then slowly, very slowly, it reached forward. A small blue hand touched the human's glove. Warmth. It was faint, weak, almost gone. But it was warmth. In this dead world of ice, it felt like fire. The human smiled weakly. The child blinked, its tears melting for the first time, but the moment did not last. From the distance, through the storm came a sound, low, hungry, a howl that made the ice tremble. The child gasped and clung to the human's arm. The human turned his head, his heart sinking. He knew that sound. It was the sound of predators, the kind that hunted the weak and dying. The storm had brought them. The human forced himself to stand, pulling the child close. His blood was still dripping, his legs still shaking, but his eyes were sharp now. He had crashed on a strange world. He was broken, bleeding, and lost. But there was a child in his arms, a child that would die without him. And so, with the storm screaming and the howls growing louder, the human made a choice. He would fight. He would survive. Not just for himself, but for the child whose tears were about to freeze. The storm did not rest. Winds howled like 1,000 angry spirits, pushing against the two figures standing in the snow. The human gripped the alien child tightly, his breath fogging inside his cracked helmet. He could barely stand, but he would not let go. The child's black eyes were wide with fear. It had heard that howl before, the sound of the ice predators, hunters of the storm. They always came when the snow was thick and the night was dark. No one escaped them. The human looked into the distance, but the storm hid everything. Only shadows moved between the snowflakes. Slow. Waiting. Watching. He needed shelter. If he stayed here, they would both die. The human forced his body to move. Each step felt like lifting a mountain. His ship had crashed not far away. Maybe, just maybe, part of it was still standing. Somewhere he could protect the child. "Come on," he muttered, though the child could not understand his words. His voice was weak, but his tone was steady. The child clung to him, small arms wrapping around his armored suit. It felt warmth from his body, weak but real. And for the first time since the storm began, the child had hope. They moved through the storm together. Step by step, man and alien child. At last, through the blizzard, a broken shape appeared. The human's ship, half buried in snow, metal torn apart, smoke rising. It was broken, useless for flying, but it still stood against the wind. The human pushed the child inside. The wreck groaned, metal cold as ice, but it was shelter, at least for now. Inside, the storm's roar softened to a low growl. The human collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Blood dripped from a wound in his side, staining the white snow red. He pressed his hand against it, teeth clenched, refusing to show weakness in front of the child. The child stood in front of him, silent, trembling. Its lips moved, whispering in its alien tongue, words the human could not understand. But its eyes spoke enough: fear, confusion, and something else. Curiosity. It stepped closer and reached out one small blue hand. Gently, carefully, it touched the crack in the human's helmet. Steam rose where its cold fingers met the glass. The human's tired eyes softened. He raised his hand too, pressing his glove against the child's hand from the other side of the helmet. For a moment, two different worlds touched through glass and cold. The silence broke. Outside, the howls returned. Louder, closer. The human sat up fast. He grabbed a piece of broken metal from the floor, a sharp edge from his ship heavy in his hand. It was no gun, no blade, but it would have to do. The child stepped back, frightened. Not of him, but of what was coming. The shadows moved outside the wreck. Claws scratched against the metal. The predators had found them. The human stood swaying but ready. His breath was heavy, his blood still flowing, but his eyes burned with fire. He would fight if he had to. The first strike came fast. A claw tore through the wreck's side, screeching against steel. Snow blew in, followed by a low growl. A dark shape pressed its face to the opening, eyes glowing like ice crystals, teeth sharp as broken glass. The child cried out, pressing against the far wall. Tears froze again on its cheeks. The human did not move back. He raised the piece of metal and shouted, a raw sound of defiance. The predator stopped for a moment. It had never heard a sound like that before. A sound of pain, rage, and something more, will. It backed away into the storm. The howls grew distant again, but not gone. They were not finished. They were only waiting. The human lowered the weapon, his arm shaking. He dropped to one knee, exhausted. The child rushed to him, tiny hands grabbing his arm. It tried to pull him up, but the human was too heavy. Instead, the child pressed close, as if its small body could protect him. The human smiled weakly. "You're braver than me," he whispered. The child did not understand the words, but it felt the tone. For the first time, its lips curved into the smallest smile. The storm raged on. The predators circled outside. But inside that broken ship, something had begun. A bond. A fragile trust between two lives that should never have met. Hours passed. The human tore cloth from his suit and wrapped his wound. He pulled out a small packet from his emergency kit, food. He opened it and offered half to the child. The child hesitated. Its kind did not eat such things, but it saw the human take a bite, chew, and swallow. Slowly, carefully, it copied him. The taste was strange, but it filled its empty stomach with warmth. The human laughed softly. Not so bad, huh? The child tilted its head, then nodded. A simple gesture, but clear. Outside, the predators howled again. The child flinched, but the human rested a hand on its small shoulder. His touch was heavy, warm, steady. A promise without words he would protect it. No matter what, the storm might last for days. The predators might return. The ship might never fly again. But in this moment, inside this broken wreck, there was something the storm could not destroy. Hope. And as the wind screamed and the claws scratched in the dark, the human's eyes stayed open. He would not sleep. He would not give up, because he was not alone anymore. The night grew darker. The storm did not rest, and neither did the predators. Their howls echoed through the frozen land, rising and falling like voices of ghosts. Each sound crept into the wrecked ship, making the walls tremble and the child's small body shake. The human sat against the broken wall, holding the sharp piece of metal in his hand. His wound burned, but he did not close his eyes. He knew if he slept, the child would die. The predators were waiting for weakness. The child pressed close to him, its large black eyes staring at the jagged opening in the wreck where the wind howled in. Every shadow outside looked like claws. Every sound felt like death. The human leaned forward, whispering softly, "They won't get you." The child did not understand the words, but it felt the strength in his voice. Then, the sound came. Not a howl, not the wind. Something heavier. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps in the snow. The child froze, breath stuck in its throat. The human tightened his grip on the weapon. He waited. From the storm, a figure appeared. At first it looked like a mountain of white moving slowly, but then the snow peeled away and its shape became clear. A predator. Its body was covered in fur as white as the storm itself, making it almost invisible. Its arms were long, ending in claws sharper than blades. Its mouth was wide, filled with teeth like icicles. Two glowing eyes burned in the dark. It growled low, shaking the metal of the wreck. The child whimpered and grabbed the human's arm. The human stood, his legs trembling, his wound aching. But he raised the weapon anyway. The predator stepped closer. Then another shadow appeared beside it. And another. 3 of them, watching, waiting. The human's heart pounded. He was only one man with no gun, no armor left, no strength. But he moved in front of the child, placing his body between it and the monsters. The predators circled the wreck. Their claws scraped against the metal, testing it. Sparks flew. The child pressed against the human's back. Its tears froze on its face, but it did not cry out this time. Instead, it held on tighter as if drawing courage from him. The first predator struck. Its claw slashed into the wreck, tearing a hole wider. Snow blasted in. The creature shoved its head through, jaws snapping. The human roared. Not in fear, but in defiance. He swung the sharp metal with all his strength, slamming it across the beast's face. Blood, thick black steaming, splashed onto the snow. The predator howled and pulled back. The others growled, circling faster now. The child gasped. It lifted its small hand, pointing at the roof of the wreck. Its voice, broken and trembling, whispered a word the human could not understand. But he understood the gesture. Danger above. The human moved fast, pulling the child with him just as claws tore through the ceiling. Shards of frozen steel fell where they had been standing. The predators were clever. They were not rushing in. They were testing. They wanted to break the wreck apart piece by piece until nothing was left. The human knew he couldn't last long like this. His body was weak, his weapon poor, but giving up was not an option. He looked at the child, who stared back with wide, terrified eyes. And he saw something, not just fear, trust. The child believed he could save them. He tightened his grip on the weapon. "Stay behind me," he whispered. The next attack came fast. One predator leapt onto the roof, another slammed its claws against the side. The human swung again, cutting deep into one arm. The beast screeched and pulled away, leaving black blood dripping onto the snow, but the force knocked the human down. His chest hit the ground, breath knocked from him. The predator moved in for the kill, claws raised high. The child screamed, not in fear but in rage. Its small hands glowed faintly blue, a strange light flickering between its fingers. It reached out and the air around the predator seemed to freeze even more. The beast stopped, confused. Its glowing eyes narrowed, its body shivered. The strange cold slowed it just for a moment. A moment was all the human needed. He rose with a roar, driving the metal shard straight into the creature's throat. The predator gurgled, staggered back, and fell into the snow outside. The other beasts howled, their voices shaking the storm. But they did not attack again. They stepped back, circling once more. Their glowing eyes locked on the wreck. They had learned something new. This prey could fight back. The human stood panting, the weapon dripping black blood, his hands trembling. The child stared at him with awe, its tears finally drying. The predators faded into the storm, their howls echoing as they vanished into the white. The battle was over. But only for now. The human sank to the ground, pain shooting through his wound. The child crawled to his side, small hands pressing against his arm as if trying to help. It spoke softly, words he did not understand, but he felt their meaning. Gratitude. Hope. The storm screamed outside, and the predators still waited. But inside the wreck, a fragile fire had been lit. Not a real fire, no flames could survive here. But something deeper, a bond. The child was no longer just a stranger, and the human was no longer just a survivor. Together they had faced the monsters of the snow, and together they would face them again. The wreck was silent now. Outside, the storm screamed as always, but inside, only two breaths filled the air. One deep and heavy, one soft and trembling. The human sat slumped against a broken wall, his body weak from blood loss. The alien child knelt beside him, its black eyes shining in the dim light. The battle had ended, but not the danger. The predators had pulled back into the storm. They were watching, waiting. They would come again. The child's small hands pressed against the human's arm as if trying to heal him. Its voice whispered words in its own language, soft and broken like a prayer. The human smiled faintly. He could not understand the words, but he felt their meaning. He placed his large hand gently on the child's head. "I'm still here," he murmured. The child blinked, its tears threatening to fall again. But this time it did not cry. It simply pressed closer. The wreck was freezing cold. The human's emergency heater was broken, and without heat they would both die. He searched the debris with shaking hands, pushing aside shards of ice and metal. At last he found a small survival kit. Inside was a flare, a little food, and a single fire stick. His fingers closed around the stick. Fire. That was something. He crawled to a corner where the snow had piled high, but the metal walls gave some shelter. With effort, he struck the fire stick against the ground. Sparks leapt into the air, and soon a tiny flame flickered to life. The child gasped. Its black eyes grew wide, reflecting the orange glow. It had never seen fire before. Its people lived with ice, with cold, with storms. But this warmth was alien to it. Strange. Beautiful. The human fed the flame carefully, using scraps of cloth and broken plastic. Soon the fire grew into a small but steady light. Orange shadows danced across the wreck's walls. The child stretched its hands toward it, feeling the warmth. Its tears, half frozen on its face, began to melt. It looked at the human, eyes full of wonder. The human chuckled softly. "See? Not all light is cold." The child tilted its head, not knowing the words but feeling the truth. It smiled for the first time, small, trembling, but real. They sat together by the fire. The storm roared outside and the predators howled in the distance, but here, in this circle of warmth, time slowed. The human tore open a ration pack and shared it again. The child ate slowly, still not used to the strange food, but this time it did not hesitate. It trusted him now. When their stomachs were full, silence fell. The fire crackled softly. The human leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes for a moment. The child watched him carefully, then spoke. Its words were alien, soft, flowing like water. The human opened his eyes, listening though he did not understand. The child touched its chest, then pointed outside. Its eyes grew wet. The human understood. Family. Lost. The child had been separated when the storm began. Its people were somewhere out there, but too far away. Alone, it would never reach them. The child's tears spilled again. They slid down its blue cheeks, dripping into the firelight. For a moment, the human thought they would freeze like before. But here near the flame, they melted. Small drops of water glistening, falling onto the snow. The human reached out and gently wiped one away. His glove was rough, but his touch was soft. "Don't cry," he whispered. "We'll find them. You're not alone anymore." The child looked at him, blinking. It did not know the words, but it knew the feeling. Its tears slowed. Its shoulders eased. For a long time they sat in silence, just the fire, the storm, and two hearts beating. But silence never lasted in this frozen world. From the distance came another sound, not claws, not howls, but something sharper, a high-pitched screech that cut through the storm. The human frowned. He knew that sound. It was the distress beacon from his ship, but the signal was wrong. It flickered, broken, repeating, not a call for rescue, something else, something dangerous. The human stood, his wound aching, his eyes sharp. He followed the sound to a half-buried console near the wreck's edge. Sparks hissed from broken wires. The beacon flashed red. The child followed him, clutching his arm. Its eyes filled with fear. It whispered something quickly, shaking its head. The human stared at the broken beacon. His stomach tightened. The signal was broadcasting, but not to his people. It was calling into the storm, and the storm was answering. He turned, scanning the snow outside. Shapes moved again in the distance, larger, heavier than before. The predators had heard the beacon. The child gasped, hiding behind him. The human clenched his jaw, gripping his weapon tighter. He returned to the fire, making sure it burned brighter. He knew what was coming. The fire gave them warmth. It gave them hope. It even melted the child's frozen tears, but it also made them a target. The light would draw every monster in the storm to them. The human looked down at the child, who stared back with trust shining in its black eyes. For a moment, the human felt something strange, a strength greater than his pain, greater than his fear. He crouched low, his voice firm. "Stay close. No matter what happens," the child nodded. It was afraid, but it did not cry. Not anymore. Together, they turned toward the storm, toward the shadows creeping closer. The bond had been made, and now it would be tested. The fire burned low, but it was enough. Its orange glow warmed the wreck, keeping the storm's cold from swallowing them whole. The human and the alien child sat close, their shadows long against the metal walls. For a moment it felt safe. For a moment it felt like the storm had no power. But safety never lasted here. The beacon screeched again, a high broken sound that stabbed through the night. The human winced, pressing his hand against the console where red light blinked. It was his ship's distress signal, but twisted, corrupted. It did not call for rescue. It called for something else. The child flinched at each screech. Its small hands covered its ears, eyes wide with fear. When the sound stopped, it whispered in its alien tongue, fast and trembling. It pointed toward the storm outside, then at the beacon, then shook its head violently. The human didn't know the words, but he understood the meaning. Danger. He turned the device, pulling wires, trying to silence it. Sparks snapped, burning his gloves. The red light flickered, but did not die. The storm carried the signal farther and farther, and the predators answered. Howls rose in the distance, louder, stronger. Not just 3 this time. Many. The sound of an entire pack, drawn closer with every broken call. The human's jaw tightened. His weapon was nothing but scrap metal. His body was weak. He could fight 1, maybe 2, but not a dozen. He looked at the child. It clung to his arm, its black eyes shining with trust and fear. He could not let it end here. Not after everything. Think, he muttered to himself. His eyes moved across the wreck, searching. There had to be something. Anything. That was when the child moved. It crawled to a corner of the wreck where snow had piled thick. With small hands, it began to dig, pushing ice and frost aside. The human frowned, confused, but the child did not stop. Its breaths came fast, clouds of mist in the cold air, until finally, something glowed beneath the snow. The human's eyes widened. A stone. No, not a stone. Something carved, smooth, and humming faintly with blue light. The child lifted it with both hands, struggling under its weight. The glow spread across its skin, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. The relic. The child turned, carrying it toward him, its small body trembling from the effort. It set the glowing object before him and spoke again, its voice urgent. The human leaned closer. The relic's light warmed the air, stronger than the fire. He could feel power in it, something alive, something ancient. The child touched the relic, then touched its chest, then pointed to the storm. Its eyes pleaded with him to understand. The human exhaled slowly. A guess formed in his mind. This relic wasn't just a stone. It was a source, a key, something the child's people had hidden, something that could fight the storm, maybe even the monsters. Outside, the howls grew closer. The predators were coming. The human looked at the child. "This is what you've been keeping safe, isn't it?" The child tilted its head, then nodded once. The human touched the relic. The glow spread to his glove, humming in the metal. His wound burned, but his strength seemed to return for a moment. His heart beat faster, stronger. The child placed both hands on the relic again, and the glow grew brighter. The firelight paled beside it. Blue shadows danced across the wreck, chasing away the darkness. But the predators saw it too. Their howls sharpened, echoing from every side. The human grabbed his shard of metal and stood, his legs steady now. He placed himself between the child and the broken wall, ready to fight again. The wreck shook. Claws raked across steel. The storm roared louder, as if the world itself was warning them. The child held the relic close, whispering in its alien tongue. The glow answered, flaring brighter with each word. It wasn't just a weapon. It was alive, bound to the child. The human realized then he could not destroy the predators alone. But maybe, together with this child and its relic, they had a chance. He crouched low, his voice strong despite the fear. "We fight as one." The child did not understand the words, but it saw the fire in his eyes. And it nodded. A deafening roar shook the ground. The wreck groaned under the weight of something massive pressing against it. Snow rained down from the ceiling. The human's breath caught. This was no ordinary predator. Its shadow filled the opening, larger than all the others. Its eyes burned brighter, colder. The leader. The beast of the storm. The child whimpered but held the relic tighter. Its glow wrapped around both of them like a shield of light. The human raised his weapon. His blood pounded in his ears. His body trembled, but not from fear. From readiness. The storm had a secret. The relic was the answer, and the final hunt was about to begin. The wreck shook like it was alive. Snow fell from the ceiling. Metal screamed, and the storm howled with the voice of 1,000 demons. The child clutched the glowing relic, its light casting blue fire across the broken walls. The human stood in front of it, weapon ready, heart pounding. Then it came. The predator's head slammed through the opening, teeth long as knives, eyes glowing with icy fire. Its roar thundered through the wreck, shaking every bone in the human's body. The child screamed, hiding behind him. The human stepped forward, his weapon raised, even though he knew the truth. He was nothing compared to this monster. His blade was just scrap metal and his body was already broken, but he stood anyway. The beast lunged. The human rolled aside as claws tore through steel where he had been standing. Sparks flew, fire and ice clashing in the dark. He swung his weapon, slicing across the beast's arm. Black blood hissed as it hit the snow, but the predator hardly noticed. The child pressed the relic to its chest, whispering words in its alien tongue. The glow grew stronger, forming a halo of blue light around them. The beast roared and pulled back as if the glow burned its eyes. The human saw his chance. "Now!" he shouted, though the child didn't understand the word. But it understood the meaning. The relic flared, sending a wave of light through the wreck. For a moment, the cold pulled back. The beast howled, claws scraping the floor, but the effort drained the child. It stumbled, almost falling. The glow dimmed. The human caught it with one arm, holding it steady. "Stay with me," he growled. His own strength was fading, but he refused to fall. The predator struck again. This time it forced half its body into the wreck, massive and unstoppable. The walls bent, the fire went out, and snow blasted in. The world became chaos, roaring wind, claws, and blood. The human fought with everything he had. He slashed at the beast's face, dodged its jaws, drove his shard of metal deep into its neck. Each hit drew black blood, but each hit cost him strength. His wound opened wider, warm red staining the snow. The child screamed again, tears freezing on its cheeks. It pressed both hands to the relic. The glow flared once more, brighter than before, wrapping around the human like a shield. For the first time, he felt it fully. The relic's power. It wasn't just light. It was warmth, courage, life itself. It flowed through him, steadying his legs, sharpening his mind. He charged. The beast roared as the human drove his blade deep into its chest. The relic's light poured into the wound, burning like fire. The predator thrashed, smashing the wreck, trying to shake him off. The human held on with all his strength. The child cried out, pouring every drop of its will into the relic. Together, man and alien fought as one. The beast staggered, howling. Then, with one last surge, it slammed its body against the wreck. The human was thrown across the floor, crashing hard against the wall. His weapon slipped from his hand. His chest burned, his vision blurred. The predator turned toward him, jaws opening wide. This was the end. The child screamed louder than ever, its small body glowing like a star. It lifted the relic high and light exploded from it. A wave of blue fire roared outward, slamming into the beast. The predator shrieked, its fur burning, its claws melting. It stumbled back out of the wreck, thrashing in the storm. The light burned through the snow, chasing away the shadows. The human tried to rise, but his body failed. He collapsed, his blood pooling beneath him. His eyes half closed. He saw only one thing, the child glowing, standing tall despite its tears. The predator gave one last roar, then collapsed into the snow, its body smoking, its eyes fading to black, silence. The storm still howled, but the wreck was still. The beast was dead. The fight was over. The child dropped the relic, its glow dimming to a soft pulse. It rushed to the human's side, small hands pressing against his wound. Its tears fell, hot now, melted by the relic's warmth. The human's eyes fluttered open. He looked at the child and gave a weak smile. "Told you. We'd make it." The child shook its head, sobbing, whispering words he could not understand. But he understood the feeling. It was begging him not to die. His hand lifted, trembling, and rested on the child's head. "Don't cry. You're safe now." Then his hand fell. His eyes closed. His body stilled. The child wailed, clutching him tightly. Its tears dripped onto his chest, glowing faintly as they touched the relic lying beside him. For a moment the light grew brighter, wrapping them both in a soft glow. Outside, the storm began to change. The winds weakened. The howls faded, and in the far distance a new light appeared in the sky, one not born of storm or relic. A ship. Rescue had come. The storm began to die. Its howls softened, its winds grew weaker, as if the land itself was tired of fighting. Snow still fell, but gently now, floating instead of stabbing. The wreck lay broken and quiet, its walls bent, its fire gone. Inside, the child knelt beside the human, clutching his arm. Its small body shook with sobs. The relic lay on the floor, glowing faintly, pulsing like a weak heartbeat. The human did not move. His body was cold, his breath shallow. Blood stained his side, mixing with the snow. He had given everything. The child's tears fell onto his chest, warm and glowing. Drop by drop, they touched the relic. The stone answered with a soft hum, its light growing brighter each time a tear struck. The child did not notice, its heart was too heavy. Then a sound broke the silence. Engines. The child lifted its head, eyes wide. Through the wreck's broken walls, lights cut through the snow. A ship descended slowly, metal shining, engines roaring. Rescue. The child ran to the opening, waving its small arms, crying out in its alien tongue. The lights grew closer, brighter. The storm scattered, unable to fight the power of the ship. The vessel landed with a hiss, snow blowing in every direction. Its doors opened and figures stepped out. Tall, cloaked against the cold, their skin the same pale blue as the child. Family. The child gasped, tears returning. It stumbled forward, shouting, falling into the arms of one of the tall figures. The alien adult knelt, holding the child close, whispering words of comfort. More figures surrounded them, relief flooding their faces. But the child pulled away, pointing desperately at the wreck. Its voice cracked as it cried out, begging them to follow. The aliens rushed inside. Their eyes fell on the human, lying broken and still beside the glowing relic. They froze, shock written on their faces. A human here on their world? And not an enemy, not a threat, but a savior. The child knelt beside him again, taking his hand. It looked up at its family, tears streaking its cheeks, and spoke with fierce, desperate words. Its voice shook, but its meaning was clear. He saved me. The aliens exchanged glances. Some were uncertain. Some were afraid. But the child's voice was strong, louder than the storm had ever been. It repeated the words again and again. The eldest alien stepped forward. Kneeling, it touched the relic. Its glow flared, washing light across the wreck. The human stirred faintly, his chest rising. A weak groan escaped his lips. The child gasped with joy. It pressed closer, holding his hand tighter. The eldest alien looked at the others and spoke in a low, firm voice. They nodded. Together, they lifted the human carefully, carrying him onto the ship. The child never let go of his hand, even as they left the wreck behind. The ship soared into the sky, leaving the storm below. Inside, the human lay on a medical bed, wires and machines surrounding him. The aliens worked quickly, their strange tools glowing with light. His wound closed slowly. His breaths grew stronger. The child sat beside him, refusing to leave. Its eyes never left his face. Hours passed. At last the human's eyes opened. Weak, heavy, but alive. He blinked, staring up at the alien faces above him. For a moment confusion filled his mind. Then his gaze found the child. The child smiled through fresh tears. Its small hand squeezed his. You made it, the human whispered, voice rough but steady. The child did not know the words, but it knew the feeling. It nodded eagerly, leaning close. The human's eyes softened. He looked at the others, the child's family, the aliens who had saved him. Their eyes were no longer cold. They were filled with something else now. Respect. One of them spoke slowly, carefully, in broken human language. You saved our child. The human gave a faint smile. No one deserves to die alone in the cold. The aliens exchanged glances again. For the first time they understood something strange, something powerful. This human had no reason to protect the child. No bond of blood, no duty, no reward. Yet he had fought monsters, faced the storm, and nearly died just to save one small life. The child pressed its forehead against his hand. Its tears fell once more, but they were not tears of sorrow now. They were warm, melted by fire inside. The relic glowed again, brighter than before, as if the child's joy gave it life. Its light spread across the room, filling every corner with warmth. The storm outside was gone now, broken. The human closed his eyes, breathing deeply, strength returning at last. The aliens watched in silence. They saw not just a man, not just a stranger, but something greater, a human heart. When the ship rose above the clouds, the child curled beside him, finally at peace. It whispered soft words in its own tongue. The human could not understand, but he smiled anyway, because he did not need to know the language. He already knew the meaning. The child's family looked down on them, their eyes soft. The eldest alien spoke again, almost in awe. Sometimes, the warmest fire, in the coldest storm, is a human. And as the stars opened before them, the child held his hand tighter, its tears no longer freezing. For those tears, melted by love and courage, had ended the storm forever.